Oh my god.
Hello, folks. We're live. It's me and F. Dot. Yet again, another episode of Really Week
We're live.
7. We are totally live. We are good to go. Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
You have to deal with me for
Was I
another
picking
hour
my
and a
nose?
half.
Was
No,
I
you
picking
were.
my nose?
No, you were playing with your mustache.
Okay. I
Yeah.
can play with my mustache on
Yeah,
screen.
my
I don't
nose is
mind
itchy now, man. Oh.
that.
Oh, God. An hour and a half of an itchy nose hanging out with you. There are worse fates, but there are better. How you doing, man?
Not bad, not bad. Been an interesting week. I almost have a fucking home, so we're almost there, boys. But
Almost made it.
Still living on Bart's couch for now. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I had a really good sandwich here for the first time ever. Firehouse Subs is some like franchise. They don't suck, so that was pretty good. And what else happened? SPL was dope.
SPL was
That's
dope.
basically my entire life, dude.
We
What
were
about you, man?
we were just talking off the mic how Redeye, a host and presenter for a lot of esports, works for ESL. So many acronyms, is actually stepping down from his position, which is a big loss for commentators because he was
Huge.
an inspiration. He's been doing it for like 12 years. Wrote one of the most in-depth esports broadcasting guides I've ever seen. It's absolutely amazing, and he's pursuing other goals in esports. So that's really cool for him, and also really sad.
Yeah, I mean, so coming into this whole esports thing, I very much, I always get slapped with the sports tag, and I hate it as much as it's true. But I mean, coming into the whole esports thing, I really like. There's a number of sports announcers and commentators that I really draw inspiration from, and esports was kind of lacking. People like DJ Wheat are like an inspiration in their own right, but they don't do what I strived to really do, And you take a look at like what Tasteless and Artosis do, and Day 9, and even still, like, they do a very good job of what they do. But part of commentating is being yourself and like having that be you. But at the end of the day, even like Michael Jackson and a pop star to look up to, right? Like, everybody has to have a little bit of yourself and a little bit of somebody that's already done it in them. And coming into esports, there really was a lack of people like that, with the exception of Redeye. Redeye really brought this like prestige, this like level of professionalism.
He's
that
the guy.
I really thought it was
Rachel
lacking in
Rachel
esports.
Quirko is like, it's like Redeye and Rachel, I think, are paragons of what a host is.
Yeah, Rachel kills it as well. And I mean, that's a good example. This is often a very hot topic. Professionalism in esports. Is it the right choice? Should esports be casted by dudes in t-shirts under blazers screaming "what the fuck"? Or should it be guys in suits saying, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show"? Or should it be somewhere in between? I believe it's somewhere in between. But
I think you should wear a full tuxedo.
I hate you. But I mean, so like, there's like
with the wing collar, like the collar with the little thing at the
only
top?
if I can wear like Rick Owens shoes with wings, then I'm down, because then we swag it out. But I mean,
Blue
what I'm
suede.
saying is that level of professionalism was never really there, even by some of the like dope casters. So seeing Redeye step down from doing a camera roll and a prominent thing like that, it's weird, because that's one of the only dudes that I really was like, damn. You do what you do like I do what I want to do, so you should do you. And now he's not doing that. He's going to do this. And that's strange to me. So it'll be weird. But he's definitely put in his time, so I hope he's doing something dope.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Good luck to him. Hasn't been announced what he's doing, but I'm sure it'll be really, really cool. So the SPL happened. That was cool. As we've mentioned earlier, it's a new format this season, or this split. And so it's 2 games per region per weekend, except for next week, which is like Power Week or something. What's next week called, with like the 4 games or the 3 games, or Super Week?
Next week we have Super Week. Juan, what do we call next week with all the games? I don't know, dude. Neither does my friend. We're gonna go with Super Week. Super Week is what we're calling it. That's the official Hi-Rez term for next week, where you get to see our world teams fight each other, double headers and all that shit. We'll call it Super Week. And if it sounds bad, blame Hi-Rez there.
Got it. Got it. Deal. Yeah, I think it was super weak in the original article or whatever. But either way, it's just sort of like 2 games per region a week, and then 1 week with more. Um, and in a lot of cases, I mean, I think in some ways it's a little bit hit or miss. If like a best of 3 series doesn't have good games because it's kind of a
Mhm.
stomp, you're just sort of screwed because that's half your games for the day. On the
Yeah.
other hand, if you have a week where you've got like Melios Mroror and Denial, and then Cloud9 and
Expelliarmus.
TSM, like in the same week, that's a dope week. So that's really cool. I think it does become a little bit hit or miss, but this week we had some good games and we had some decisive games. Um,
Uh-huh. And I mean, to be fair, like, I mean, so so you say I come from the world where like if you have a 2-0 stomp, that's not shitty. That's just the way she goes sometimes.
I mean, kind
Like
of. It depends.
it's kind of fun to see somebody get shit on once in a while, man.
I think it depends, right? I think one aspect of this is like, yeah, it's a decisive victory. This team had a game plan, they executed it, they did that really well. That's super cool. On the other hand, and it can be really important to show like that sort of part of the meta, right? Like in every season, every split, when the game changes, there's going to be ways that teams win dominantly in 15, 20 minutes. At the same time, it can also be like it's I would have rather seen a close game. Or,
Yeah,
not
sure.
but like some people would have rather seen a close game. It has
I feel you.
value, but it's just not as good.
I feel you. I feel you. I mean, there's room for both, you know. It is what it is. I would like close games most of the time, but I think the storyline of a team getting stomped is certainly there. So I
It
like a
is.
little
You
mix
know,
of both.
all right, all
At the
right.
end of the day,
This is a
sometimes it's
show. This is a show where we're not very political, right? And so I think we can talk about this through the lens of a team from season 1, and that team is
first.
Thirst. Yeah. So their first game, they get 3-0'd, triple first blood at the mid camps, off an invade. It's awful. They come back, they win, they beat Snipe. That's cool. And then they go up against Cog Red. Cog Red is on fire. They're probably the best team in the league. Yeah, they lose, but I think that's fine. That was expected.
Okay.
Sure, it was dominant, but that team's supposed to win dominantly, right? And then
Yeah.
you have Cog Prime, and that's another dominant victory. But like that's fine too. Cog Prime is pretty close to Cog Red. I mean, they were
Well,
both
I
good
mean,
teams. The
yeah.
problem was then that they won or lost the remaining 17 games, and that's where it stopped being a dominant victory and started being a
It
stomp,
starts
right?
being real next Tuesday on Esports. No, 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 no. So a stomp is fun. A
Yeah,
team that is not uncompetitive is not fun. And I think that's
exactly.
the difference. I think that's the difference, right? Like it's fun to see somebody get shit on because you're like, dude, Soul Shiner's not that bad. Why is he getting shit on? I can't wait till
Soulshiner
next
has
week.
18 Diamond Gods. 18.
I mean, to be fair, that doesn't mean that he's good. It just means he plays a
No, but
lot.
it mean he
But
plays a lot. He's probably decent.
but see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. So, like, for example, who Enemy Esports got like destroyed this weekend, right? I
Right.
don't think they're terrible. So it's fun to
No.
watch Enemy Esports get shit on, and then you sit there and you're like, look, like Taki's not that bad. He might be a douche, but he's not that bad. And Soulshine is great. They got shit on. Can't wait till next week and see them beat whoever they play. You know what I mean? That's cool. But when you come into every single game, like the Knicks in the NBA right now are like 56-9. Like, dude, you've won 9 out of 70 something games.
Right.
Like, that's not fun. That's uncompetitive and that's not enjoyable to watch. So, like the Thirst situation, that kind of sucked. But watching a team get destroyed every once in a while, that's
It
fun.
it like gives you perspective, right? It's like those diagrams that you have in science class where it's like, look how small the Earth is in relation to the sun. It's like, look how good this team is in comparison to this team that's still really good. It gives you perspective on the entire situation. Shut up. I see
Okay.
you making that face. Shut up. Right? Like, it's important to see the breadth of your pro league. It's important to
Sure.
see the
Okay.
difference between the top team and the bottom team, and matches like that can illustrate it. At the same time, sometimes you just have an outlier, and that's not what you want, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
You want a spectrum from the best team to the worst team, but you want the worst team to still be a good team, right? Worst is a relative
Yes.
statement. Worst does not
Yes.
mean bad. You don't want that team to be bad. You just want it to be the worst of a bunch of good teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that's fun. Like I said, it's fun to have good teams, teams that are better than others, especially because of the storyline. Uh, we can safely say that the name changers are a better team than enemy esports, right? Like, I'm not offending anybody
Yeah,
or making an egregious
I think that's
like
fair to say.
that's fair. Well, when enemy esports beats the name changers, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome because we know that they're not as good. But for those two games, that best of three, they were better. And that's all you need sometimes. And that all of a sudden becomes incredibly fun. That's more about like, oh my goodness, what did they do right? They're not better, but they were better then. What did they, and that becomes interesting. That becomes exciting. And then all of a sudden you realize that, hey, it's not a binary system. Teams aren't good or bad or better or worse. They're better at laning or worse at team fights. And all of a sudden you see all these variables and you're like, dude, it's not a simple 1 and 0. And then your mind gets opened and you start to love esports. And, well, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, the other thing is, right, like, the 2-0, the 2-1, the ending numbers don't really tell the full story, right? Like, you can have a
Exactly.
very good 2-0, or you can, like, it's deep. We play a game that has a lot of depth, so that 2-0 could be very competitive. The 2-1 could be a stomp, but game 2, they 5-man invaded and won, and, like, that happens, right? Like, you can 5-man invade and beat anybody if you do it right and you get a little bit lucky and you're in the right place at the right time.
Shouts to DM Brandon.
Yeah, shouts.
Every single win
really.
I see on DM Brandon's channel, he's invading somebody.
Hey, why not, right? Oh man.
Yeah.
Um.
Did you catch the DM Brandon video Incon put out?
No, I didn't.
Dude. So, first of all, let me just say that Incon is one of my favorite YouTubers because it's hilarious. Incon has a whole series of killing Jerby.
Okay.
Where he just kills Jerby.
Is it on par with the Shing Bacchus Jerby one shot?
Almost. I mean, so basically, it's an entire playlist of videos that exclusively feature Incon killing Jerby.
Right. Quality.
So it's great. And then he just put up this video called Classic DM Brandon, where he's in a ranked game where DM Brandon happens to be in. And like Brandon's playing solo lane, I think, or jungle or something. And the jungler, he's playing solo. Jungle buys a mana pot instead of a ward. And like they get invaded on and fucked on. And Brandon just rages. It is beyond good. It is so because Incon's just sitting there and like Brandon's like, you come out and you buy instead of wards, you buy mana pots. And Incon's just like, excuse me, I mean mana. You mean mana pot? It's only one. And like Brandon is like, oh, dude, it's so good.
Ranked,
so
man.
Good.
Ranked. It's serious. I mean, honestly, like, if we're gonna actually talk about the game for once, which really isn't the, of course, like, we talk about Smite Esports, but we don't really talk about the game. Most invades in ranked are, like, fairly obvious, right? It's like, do they have a good level 1? Do we have a bad level 1? Well, they're probably invading. But, like, you don't really see, like, that many just, like, random invades. You know, it's not surprising, so...
I think people just see DM Brandon and they go, I want to invade on this guy.
I think that's part of it. I mean, he does preach invade every game, so... or at least he did.
I mean, I would invade Brandon. I'm just putting that out there. That sounded oddly sexual, but it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah, you've seen his beard. Moving on.
Oh, God. SPL happened this weekend, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I watched every
I
game.
mean, I know. Being EGR Krett, you're more interested in the Challenger Cup
Dude, I
than the
love
Pro
it.
League.
Challenger Cup's the best.
Pro League is a
Who
little
needs the Pro League?
out of reach. I
And
think.
yeah, no, dude, totally, don't even think about it. No, I mean, so what was it? It was Melios Muror. I'm never gonna say that
No,
name right.
Melinda
Versus
Melton.
Enemy.
Okay.
Milton Millhouse versus Enemy Esports. That was, I think, Sunday.
Yeah.
And then it was Denial versus that other team.
Denial versus Cock.
Right, Denial versus Cog the other day. Denial versus Cog, I believe, was a 2-1, and Melius Murar versus Enemy was a 2-0. I mean, Denial, they're still up to the same Denial shenanigans that Denial did way back then. They like their early invades. They practice the hell out of them. And they're really good at it. Like, Denial is a team that you have to give them credit. They are damn good at what they do. Damn good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they are good.
Oh, it was Enemy versus Cog and MM versus Denial? Wow, I don't even pay attention.
I wasn't paying attention to you. I literally have my schedule up right here. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So Cog won over Enemy, pretty easy peasy, 2-0, no problem. And then MM actually slaughtered Denial. Denial had a tough time really keeping up, and for some reason, all right, Krett.
Yeah.
Krett.
What up?
Have you ever looked at Weekends anything, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, etc.?
Yeah. Yeah, we can.
What's his little logo thing?
Isn't it like an 8?
No, it's a circuit tail.
Oh, right, yeah. The circuit tail.
And then they gave him circuit.
Right, yeah.
Dog, that's your logo.
I mean, giving up circuit is just dangerous, honestly.
Circuit is a powerful god by itself, in and of itself. But circuit in the hands of Weekend, that's his thing. That's his thing. Europe bans hell against Sausage the entire time. And Sausage's hell is great. I don't think it's anywhere near the ridiculousness level of circuit coming out of Weekend. Goddamn, dude. He had the most hilarious slash line. 13, 3, and 7.
Quality. Yeah, I remember that.
Look at it, though. I'll type it in chat.
Yeah. 1, 3, 3, 7. Yep.
It's 1 through. Oh, shit. No, I didn't do anything. It's 1, 3, 3, 7, which also means elite, which is short for elite, which means the best. Do you get that, Krett?
Right,
Krett, do you get that?
because it's the best.
Krett, do you get
Who's on
No, the best is on Dignitas.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Weekend coming out with a 6.3 KDA, definitely looking very strong, getting a circuit. And they
Mr. Stats and your 13 point, who gives a shit 3
That's
KDA.
right. That's right.
Mr. Stats,
No, I mean, I think part of it is just sort of MM and Denial have scrimmed before, and Denial, as I said earlier, is very good at what they do, but they also do what they do, right? Denial fights early. They're an early game team. So is Cog. Wow. So is MM, Melios Murar, Melior M&M's, whatever. So is former Complexity. And, right, they're an early game pressure team, but they're not an early game invade team. So it's very interesting to see the difference. And I think MM did a good job of surviving the invades and then going into the SPL. They were ready and were able to find the 2-0.
I mean, I honestly, I think that MM is just. I think that Denial, especially with Xing on board, is a much better team than 5 Angry Men used to be. But I still don't think they're that good. They're the only team that had a perfect 3-0 in qualifiers. But I still don't think that they're as
Well,
I mean,
so talking about qualifiers,
yeah,
qualifiers is weird because you sort of have like a few different leagues of teams, right? You have teams that play at a very high level, teams that are a little bit below that, etc. And I think the more early game focused your team is, the better you do against teams that are below your level, right? Because like as an early game focused team, what you do is you exploit weaknesses of teams on your
right.
level within the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of the game. When you get to a team at a lower level than you and they make more mistakes, you immediately jump into the part of the game where you're very strong, you're exerting your influence, you're taking advantage of your opponents, and they're making more mistakes than you used to. You're able to take more advantage of that. Whereas a more late game focused team, you have to wait. Like, by default, late game focused teams weather the storm, then come online. And so I think it's just sort of like having control, being a team that looks to control the game within the first 15 minutes is advantageous when you're looking at a situation like qualifiers or relegations or something like that.
I guess that's fair to say. Um, I guess that's fair to say. I think one of the bigger things to take away from that is that I think that it's more so that more in teams that are less experienced have problems. The early game is harder to play than the late game because it's
I don't know
more
about that.
about smaller movements.
Kind of.
Right? Think about it this way. If you are a good Smite player, like you can kill people in joust or whatever, right? Late game team fights are very position based. Late game is all about pushing your buttons correctly and making the right or making the right decisions. But early game has a lot to do with like making smaller decisions, right? Like leaving the solo lane at the correct time, making sure you get that perfect wave experience, not losing the wave, killing your jungle camps at the correct time, sharing with the mid laner. Once you get into the mid game and late game, it means a little bit less. No?
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, but right, it's like
So
different sorts of decisions.
right, yeah, like detail oriented decisions versus big picture decisions for the early and late game respectively.
Yeah, but there's like a little bit of cross pollination, right? Like there's
Yeah,
details in the
exactly.
late
It's
game and
not
there's
perfect
big
at all.
pictures in the early game for sure. It just sort of is like the early game is like a series of mistakes to not make, right?
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking towards. So the early game is a series of mistakes that you can't make, right? So when a more experienced team comes along, they've already made those mistakes and they can avoid them. More
Hmm.
importantly, when you make those mistakes, they can capitalize on it.
Yeah.
That's
If
why
they're an early game
experienced
focused
teams.
team, right? If they're a
Yes.
team that looks for advantages in the early game, if they're not, if they don't like to play gods that are powerful there, or if their shot caller prefers to wait for later, or if they're
Hmm.
more objective oriented, then they're looking for different things, and they're less likely to take aggressive advantage of those mistakes, and can instead take passive advantage of those mistakes. So it's the decision of, oh, well, their jungler backed at 4 minutes, so I'm going to invade, versus, oh, their
Right.
jungler backed at 4 minutes, so I can take my camps for free.
Exactly. And it's those small things that really like. I mean, we saw it routinely with. Oh shit! It was in the enemy game, I think. Um, I think it was in the enemy game. I could be mistaken, where uh, teams saw enemy back and they just stole the jungle. They just took the jungle. They
Sure.
noticed that Soul Shiner was in the soul. That's what it was. Soul Shiner went to the dual lane, so they were able to invade the solo lane. No problem. Stuff like that. That's really like bringing it to the next level.
Gesundheit. You okay? You want me to call an EMT? Paramedic?
Almost. I almost died.
Combat medic? Alright, cool. You're good. Yeah.
Combat medic, you dirty Star Wars MMO player, get out of here.
No, like, I know a combat medic.
Like,
Like an Army Ranger combat medic, yeah. Uh,
wow. You
yeah.
know Army
Yeah.
Rangers. I know.
Yeah. I played Star Wars
Whatever.
Galaxies with him. What up?
So he was a Star Wars combat medic. You piece of
No, he
garbage.
played the trooper, I think.
Yeah, well, then he made the wrong choice because combat medic was overpowered. So
Yeah,
he's not
he
that
did.
smart.
Yeah,
No,
no, I agree.
he's just not that smart.
Yeah.
Hey, Hi-Rez fan hit 2K followers. Turn up.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
turn up.
all right. talking about EU a little bit, and the playout of the EU was a little bit different, right? You had the London Conspiracy with the 2-0 against Stars. London Conspiracy debuting Suntouch in the jungle and Arrow in the
Yes.
middle lane, which I think is something that we want to jump back to. Dig vs. Trig was,
Dig
I
vs.
think,
Trig.
a bit of an upset.
Yeah, I think Dig vs. Trig was an upset.
Like I don't want to say it was a huge upset, right? Like
No,
it's
not
not.
huge.
It wouldn't be like Denial beating Cloud9, but it was an upset. It's like they're within sort of the same bracket, but you expect one team to win, and the other did. It was well played by Dignitas for sure.
Extremely well played. I mean, I think that I think that what's it called? I think that Dignitas coming into the SPL, I thought that Trig Esports was one of the teams that could contend with the top two teams, both
I think
Fnatic.
that was the assumption.
Yeah, like Trig could contend with Fnatic and Titan, and Dignitas would be a solid, very talented middle of the pack team. I'm not going to say I've strayed from those thought processes. I think I think that
Right,
thought
like
process is the way
a
to go.
talented middle of the pack team can get a 2-1 on a team like Trig. Like they
Exactly.
it isn't necessarily like you would expect a 2-1 in Trig's favor, I think, was the expectation. But a 2-1 in Dig's favor is certainly like that's not a far cry. It's not a 2-0, it
That was a
wasn't a
great
stomp.
game.
They were good games. At the same time, I don't think it was really what was expected of Trig.
No, not at all. And I mean, so seeing the first game happen, Trig looked really good.
Yeah.
But it was, I got to go back and I would have to go back and watch those games again if I really wanted to pinpoint what won the games for Dignitas.
Well, game one for sure. Like, man, it was Trix Tank on those
It was
bruisers,
Bakasura.
right?
It was
Yeah, it
Bakasura
was
that won the first
Bakasura,
game.
but it was also like that was the one outlier for me because I think it was Herc first game for Trix Tank, and then he was Guardians the other two, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. And
It
that
was.
that's just sort of his home. And then putting him back on a Guardian, maybe throwing him off, like real speculation stuff. Like, okay, going into the launch tournament, Trix Tank and TSM had a 100% win rate with Guan Yu. 100%.
Okay.
They
Yep.
had not lost with Guan Yu. Now, there might be reasons behind that. Maybe there's luck. Maybe they're good with the pick. Maybe they're really comfortable on it. But it tells you one thing. Don't give them Guan Yu. Just don't. Right? Like, I think this speaks to Trix Tank in general. He and the players he's with do better when he's playing a warrior.
Yeah, of course. Definitely. Yeah. Trix Tank is a warrior player.
Right. And it's so like, yeah, he was on a Guardian in the games they lost. Now, that was also like, it's Zalia in the solo lane, and Zalia has an allotted number of games per season. There's a number. It's like the taunt ruling for Omega, where he will just go batshit and carry the game by himself. And that, I think, was one of them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so there was a Zalia effect, which is what happened originally in game one. I mean,
Sure.
if you look at game two, you take a lot of people say that Trix Tank was misplaying. He was being extremely aggressive, and we saw the same problem out of Xing in North America for Denial.
Okay.
Playing aggressive is great, and honestly, is how you win a lot of times. People just can't handle the pressure. But when you're behind or in a situation where you can't be aggressive, well, frankly, you can't be aggressive. And I think Xing's plays on Nemesis.
So I think the phrase
sort of
"can't be
mirrored what happened
aggressive"
with
is a
Trix
little
Tank.
bit of a misnomer, right? Because it's more
Sure.
like you have to think about it. You can
Exactly,
still be
right.
aggressive. You just have to
Right.
find the opening.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's got to be done correctly. And like I drew the comparison to Xing. It was just in the wrong spots. Well, a certain play comes to mind. Xing had Athena ulting on him, so he decided that that's all he needed to like dive a tier 2 tower. And this was early on in the game. He was behind by 2 levels. It's not ever going to work, dude. It's just not ever going to work. And we saw Trickstank doing similar stuff, just being too aggressive at the wrong time, which is trouble. Like you said, you can still be aggressive when you're behind. You just have to do it correctly, and we just didn't see it right out of there. So I mean, Trig in general, I think they won the game on the back of Bakasura, or more specifically Zelia.
In game one.
Yeah, and I think that's Trickstank misplayed, but even with Trickstank misplaying, I think Zelia can carry this team. So I honestly think that you always put Zelia on a hyper carry, not an Aphrodite. What?
I mean, Aphrodite is really good, and that's the character that you want your team to be able to play. She's so valuable.
But I mean,
it's just like, but you have Zelia, right? It's like,
right.
It's like in that one game in the playoffs, in the season 1 playoffs, where Chunks put Cyclone on Sun Wukong, and it's like, but it's Cyclone. He could play something that can hard carry. Why are you putting him on this sort of stalemate-y bruiser?
That's what I'm saying. There are multiple archetypes. There are multiple archetypes to teams and comps
and players.
Basically, like look, you have Zelia in the solo lane. You fucking run a hard carry in the solo lane. You have an Anatoly or an Omega. You run a warrior that has control and can surprise people.
Or the Aphrodite. Like, or that's kind of up their alley.
Aphrodite works with like control.
She's basically a warrior anyway, so
exactly my point. And you have to play. There is no such thing as an optimal comp. You play the comp that is optimal for your comp of players, because as I have been preaching forever, the person behind the god is just as, if not more, important. When you have DJ Pernicus on your team, you don't give him Loki in the jungle, you give him Shock in the jungle, and you put a hard carry in the solo lane. When you have Zelia on your team, you put a hard carry in the solo lane.
You give him Mercury. Or Baka.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you got to respect that. And I think that a lot of teams get caught up in this whole, like, Aphrodite's good in the solo lane. We got to get her in the solo lane. Zelia can. I'm not saying Zelia can't play Aphrodite solo. He obviously can. He's a great player. He's good at whatever. But his play style needs to fit. Like, the play style of the player and the team have to fit the gods you select, because there are so many different approaches to comps and mentalities that by pigeonholing yourself into a pick that is quote unquote meta, there is no one size fit all. What's good for Trig Esports is very different than what's good for Eager, because their hard carries are in different spots. Funball is capable of it, but he's not going to carry like Zapman usually carries. That's just not going to happen. The hard carries are
and Derdeker is not going to carry like Cuvo Fred.
Exactly. The carries on the team are distributed differently, and you got to do it. To draw the sports comparison that everybody wants to hear me do, Spurs are carried on the back of their center. They play a very slow, team-oriented game. When you look at a team like whoever LeBron James plays for, they just give the ball to the big guy LeBron, and that's all they do. Different play styles for different teams, because different comps befit different persons better. And that's a huge thing that people need to grab onto, and the draft base needs to warrant that as well.
No, totally. So Dignitas going forward, do you see them growing and being like one of the top 2 teams?
Top 2 is tough.
Top 2 is tough, yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to the shot caller, right? Like, yes. Young Bay's really good. Is he the shot caller? Who's the shot caller? The question is, I think, who's the shot caller and how can they grow with the team? Because they're really good players, but they're also players that have had team difficulties.
Young Bay is generally known as a quiet guy. I'm not sure if he's quiet in comms. I have no idea who calls the shots on Team Dignitas. I will say this, though. Fnatic, otherwise known or previously known as SK, is not that good online. Don't forget that.
Yeah, they aren't. And there's no unicorn build anymore. It's dead. There is, You basically build Hunter one way with a few alterations, like, do I want an Ichavolt? Yes or no, right?
Yeah.
Ataraxia can't be really a special snowflake anymore through his itemization. Now, maybe his picks. There are a lot more viable hunters. We just had a patch today that where
Well,
on her got a lot stronger. Maybe he could play Neath. Maybe he could play MC. I don't know, but Ho Yi.
I think Titan will continue being good.
Oh, sorry, Fnatic not that good online. I mean, Titan as well, right? Like Titan.
I think Titan's fine online.
Yeah, but they also like have this tendency to lose stuff right until like it just matters, and then they win. So
I feel like that is the definition of what SK
I think
does,
what it
or
comes
Fnatic.
down to is NA. You have two top teams. It seems clear. You've got the Name Changers and you've got Cloud9, and then on the other side you have, I guess, Titan and Fnatic. But like, are they really the top two? It's not as dominant. It's not as obvious.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that, like I said, Fnatic. Excuse me, it's been a long day of finding a home, so I don't have to live on a couch and eat scraps of food like the dog.
Yo, dogs are great though.
Dogs rule. I will give a shout out to Ymir if she's watching at home. You're a good dog. Don't eat my coat ever again, but we can high five when I get home. Maybe we can eat sticks together. But so back on point, Fnatic just has problems online, dude. They tread water essentially until it comes time to really like turn up, and then they turn up. Like that's just what they do. Turn up. That's what they do.
Well, and honestly, Titan as well, right? Like Titan basically.
I mean, Titan. We have yet to see Titan in a professional environment.
That's true.
We have never seen Titan play online.
Right, we've never seen them play in a season. It's just like what Titan does, aside from the Challenger Cup, where they were just better than everybody. It seems like what Titan does is they have a lot of trouble, and then when it counts, they get the victory.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we watched Titan shit on teams that sucked, and then they played one LAN, did real good, and then went to Worlds and did real good. We haven't seen them play online, so I think it's pretty unfair to really have any assessment towards that team in that regard. But so I mean, that's what this is about. We're going to see how they do this season because they're just not. Just didn't do. We just didn't. They sort of like. I'm not going to say cheated, but they sort of like. Well, here's the pro.
Slipped
league.
right in there.
Yeah, just kind of jumped over it, man. They just kind of jumped over it.
It's like, hey, what up? They slid right into Worlds, basically.
They just slid into the DMs. No problem.
Yeah, they had on. They were wearing their socks with hardwood floors, and they just slid right in there.
Did you just make a Tom Cruise and Risky Business like reference?
No, I made a being a child reference. Everyone's fucking done that.
Oh, I thought you were actually like.
No.
Like a real person with pop culture references.
I mean, no, that was a pop culture reference. Everyone did that. Everyone did that.
That's not what pop culture is not doing.
Listen,
something.
I'm not a pop culture based commentator, okay? I do boring analysis and I leave the pop culture references to you. In fact, I'm a coach, so whatever. Let's talk about something a little bit closer to home with me. Let's talk about basically players underperforming, players making mistakes. We mentioned earlier in the show that SunTouch is in the jungle for London Conspiracy. Arrow's in the mid lane. Now, Arrow's a fantastic player, really good mid laner. He's played solo as well. He's good there. SunTouch has played every role competitively except for solo lane. We're still hoping on that one. Season 3. SunTouch in the solo lane. It's gonna happen.
Still hoping. Cross my fingers.
Emilito is trying to beat SunTouch to it.
He really is.
Emilito actually. Has he played ADC? Because he's played jungle, solo, and support, and now mid.
Chat, figure it out. Chat, figure it out.
Yeah.
Go find out. Go find out.
Anyway, Redfu. Now there is a bit of a controversy about casters being rude to this player, and we're not really getting into that, but it does bring up the point. Like,
we can get into it.
No. I don't think that's really the point,
dude,
right?
I got my zero suit on.
You're ready?
Zero suit.
All right,
dude. I'm
so there was some controversy about casters being mean or demeaning this player. I don't really buy into that. I mean, he didn't do well. Oh, Emilito played ADC on Panthera, so he's gotten the full sun touch. He's gotten the full sun
So
touch. I'm pretty sure
yeah.
Emilito has done everything competitively. Might be wrong about jungle. It could be wrong about jungle. But,
So Emilino needs jungle.
I mean, yeah, I think Emilito needs jungle. I think Kiki needs jungle, but, like, I don't know if I could fully count Kiki's going for the full sun touch, because, like, he just sort of did other things when he was on down to frag.
So what is that? Who does Emilino need?
Emilito needs jungle, I think.
Jungle.
Maybe. He might have done it. I'm not sure. That's the one I'm fogging on, but I know he's played mid, support, solo, and hunter.
All right. Well, I
Suntouch,
tweeted, and if somebody tweets at me wrong or mad, I'm just gonna blame you.
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so people were saying that some of the casters were being rude or demeaning to Redfu, and I don't think that's really the case in that specific situation, but it does bring up the topic of how do you talk about someone playing badly without being rude, right? Because when you're a professional analyst or a professional commentator, there's a line, and depending on like some communities push that line more. FGC a little bit more liberal, right?
Well, dude, FGC commentary up until very recently was like, dude got shit on, never come back. Get lost in pools, scrub. Like, that is legit.
Yeah.
That is legit, like, and I mean, if you go on to, like, anime...
Like I said, a little bit more liberal.
I mean, dude, and we're talking, like, that's, like, you know, there's, like, Street Fighter, and Smash is basically exclusively my man Z1 doing things professional, right?
Yeah.
But then you've got Street Fighter where they do Capcom Cup type stuff, and you got like Ultra David and James Chan trying to be professional. But then you start getting into like Killer Instinct and like, you know, Skullgirl. BlazBlue. You ever watch BlazBlue?
Tekken and BlazBlue are my
Tekken
shit.
Tag Team. You ever watch BlazBlue commentary? It's like a 14-year-old kid picking his nose and like some like 40-year-old dude with dreads. And I'm not referencing what's his name specifically because he's a lot younger than that. I'm just talking like they're just a bunch of dudes that are like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Holy shit!
My favorite favorite is MVC3 commentary because they're so busy trying to tell you what's happening that they don't have time to talk shit.
Dude!
Because there's just so much on the screen.
No, this is Marvel vs. Capcom commentary. Alright, so Phoenix is there. She's just going to wait until she... Oh! He fucking did it! Infinite! And that's the whole commentary.
No. Sometimes you also... Virtual Anchor! Ah! That Virtual Anchor, though. Or sometimes you have Chris G! Just Morgan fucking everybody! Just Morgan fucking everybody!
Bart just looked in through the door. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what?
You're casting
I'm
MVC3.
sure I'll walk out there a little bit and just be like, Marvel's Capcom commentary. And he'll be like, oh yeah, definitely.
Right. And so we're not about that life, I think, in Smite. In MOBAs in general.
No, not about
You know, like, I think there are some situations, right, like, where things are a little bit more relaxed. If you watch, like, Beyond the Summit, I think they toned down the professionalism a little bit. It worked for them. They get a lot of viewers. It's awesome. And it's more like... I think it's a little bit more real in some ways, right? Like, they're not going to be afraid to say he had a rough time of it, right? Like,
which you should not be afraid of.
Yeah. The problem is you don't want to say, this player really shouldn't... You want to be very careful about saying something like, this player really shouldn't be doing that. Right.
Well, so let's dissect that. This player shouldn't be doing that implies that I know better than the player, and sometimes I do.
Right.
Not me specifically, but if the caster says the player should, example, jungler should not be taking blue buff away from the solo laner. It's happened in a pro league game. I will say that should not happen. That said, it's my job to figure out if there is a reason. It's my job to figure out what that reason is. So I will, in that situation, I would probably say something like...
But then you make that should not happen a talking point, right? Like, what you're saying there with that should not happen is like, that's not meta. That's what you're saying. That's not how you do that.
Yes and no. So that whole thing, like, don't do it because it's not meta. I despise it. Like that's
Right.
so fucking like that's very that to me is a very like plebe way of denouncing talent or casters, right? Just like
Right.
oh, like dude, it's said about me. It's said about everybody that speaks. Anytime you say something negative that somebody does, one of the lowest tier arguments you can give is, well, it's not meta, and that's why you don't like it. Well, two things there.
There's a reason there's a meta. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, we have one for a
Yes.
good reason. But, like, that's sort of what I'm saying, right? I think a lot of the times, in the situation you gave, like, giving your jungler the blue buff isn't meta. Like, the meta is you give the blue buff to the soul laner. That's what you do. It's good on them. It's not good on your junglers. No. Now, there's a lot of good reasons behind that, but there could conceivably be a situation in which giving the blue buff to your jungler is very good and does break the meta. As much as I hate that phrase.
If you're playing Hebo jungle and you have a Chrono solo, go ahead.
Yeah.
If you have a Chuck solo and a Bastet jungle, go ahead. They're both mana hungry gods and Chuck is manaless. Go ahead. I get it. All of a sudden, it's not the wrong choice because, believe it or not, casters know what they're talking about sometimes. But if, like, the way you phrase that, right? He shouldn't be doing this. And let's say it's about, like, something like blue buff going to the soul lane instead of the jungle is very cut and dry. Almost anybody will agree with you, right? But let's say somebody does something that's a little more on the dotted line, right? So, how would you go about tier support?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Gotti, can I put you on the spot? All right. Somebody plays tier support. That's not good. How do you phrase that? How do you say it's bad without saying this guy sucks, Dave?
I would say it's bad.
You just say it's bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tired of like the whole filler fluff bullshit.
That's exactly what we're talking about, and we can like me and Krett are talking about how do you how like we should be able to say that it's a bad play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the more you can say this play was bad is better.
Yeah.
But I understand it can't or whatever.
There's like a certain way that you have to go about it.
Yeah, it's like, well, traditionally this isn't what we normally see.
At a certain point, we have to be allowed to say it's bad. And what is that point? Scott's like all the way over there, dude. You're not gonna.
Yeah, no. I got him in the shot originally. Yeah, there we go. What else, Scott?
Yeah,
all right, so yeah, tier support. Like maybe there's a good reason for it, right? Like maybe your support is just a ballad tier player. Like he's fantastic at that. 180 Blink Fearless is every time, 100%, right? Like maybe you have a reason. Maybe like at his prime in the jungle, Lassus is your support player for some reason.
I gotta cut you off. Chat. I'm not going to Gandhi for advice. I just wanted to get his input. Dude.
I'm sure Gandhi gives great advice. I am down with Gandhi advice.
God damn. Anytime I have a question about like lifting things or like being a bro, I always ask Scott for advice.
What about lifting things and putting them back down?
Lifting things and putting them back down is definitely something I go to Scott for. You know, walking real fast for no reason is something I go to Scott for. Yeah. Pounding Red Bulls is something I go to Scott for advice for. So these are all valid things to ask Scott about.
Right. Okay, so what about mean faces? Do you go to Scott or do you go to me?
Mean faces? Mean faces, I generally go to Scott. Scott Connie makes a good mean face.
Yeah, he does. Right, all right. So, yeah, let's say your team really likes tier. You've got, like, this sort of setup for it, and you put tier in the support role. You know, like you have the right ideas behind it, right? Like, what does tier do? Well, he brings these things to the team. That's why we want him on the team. We'll put him Nemesis support is another thing that we've seen like this. Like, I want a Nemesis, I don't want her in the jungle, but I still want the ultimate, put her in the support role. Stuff like that. It's really non-conventional, but there's some reasons behind it. So, in that situation, it seems sort of cut and dry to say it's the caster's job to explain why the team is doing this thing that is apparently working for them, right? I think the hard part comes when it doesn't work. Right? Like, a team goes in the game and they're like, all right, we're going to play tier support. They have it all planned out. They're going to play tier support. They're going to blink fearless. Our player's a fantastic tier player. We've got all the setup we need, right? You've got, like, an Artemis, and the plan is to blink fearless him and then trap them off the fearless or something like that. And then you've got, like, a Rada snipe. It'll be really cool. And then they get invaded and tier feeds. I think that's the hard part, because then you can't see what they were thinking, because it just didn't work. But, you know, if he were in the same situation with Geb, it probably wouldn't have worked, right? Like, if you're having a bad game, you're having a bad game.
Very
and
true.
maybe playing something you're not used to is a part of why. But when you're having a bad game, you're not going to do well on Geb, you're not going to do well on Tyr, you're not going to do well on Athena, because it's a bad game, right? Like, by definition, you're doing poorly.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just not having a strong game, which happens to everybody, you know. And it's important to notice the difference between somebody having a poor game. Bad comes from different places. Bad can come from lack of preparation. Bad can I'm using an intentionally simple adjective. Bad can come from lack of preparation. Bad can come from nerves, even. Bad can come from maybe you're just not good, which is important, and we'll get back to that. Bad can come from poor decision making. Bad can come from off mechanics. You know what I mean? So that is
like, what is the issue, right? Like,
exactly. And I think that is very important to figure out before you open your mouth as a broadcaster.
Right. So, you want to just use Redfu as a specific example?
Yes. I will say this publicly right now. I've said it before. This is the first time I'm putting it on a pedestal. I am 100% okay with everything I said and did regarding Redfu when he played for London Conspiracy.
Okay. So, there were issues. That's clear and agreeable, right? Now, let's talk about mechanics. Okay?
Sure.
What was he playing? Well, first of all, Godpool. What was he playing at the time?
That's all he played was Thor.
That's all he played?
It is the single god that Redfu played was Thor.
Now,
didn't play a single different god.
We can't really see the extension of Thor's a great god. He's definitely in the meta. And, you know, maybe, like, that's just sort of London Conspiracy's pick and ban, right? Like, they're just like, well, if we can get Thor, we get Thor. We're down. Right? So that doesn't necessarily say too much about Redfu. It's not like he got Thor and then someone banned Thor and he fed his brains out and picked Najah. Like, you can't really speak too much about that. He played Thor. Okay, Godpool, NA. Like, it's not a pass, it's not a fail, it's just we don't have the information to say anything about that. Mechanics. Right, so first of all, let's talk about Thor. Thor has a few tricks up his sleeve.
He played a Ymir. He played a Ymir.
He played a Ymir? Okay.
Yeah. But Thor is really, that's where the majority of his games came from.
So let's talk about Thor mechanics. Thor has a few things that he does, right? You've got using your spin to stick to people, do AoE damage, and try and burst people down. You generally want to have them CC'd so that they're not jumping away from your spin, stuff like that. You've got the 2 into the 1 combo where you drop the wall, stun, allow them to double tap, right? You've got the freeform double tap where there's no wall, there's no stun, you're just throwing the hammer and hoping you hit. You've got auto attack canceling and stuff like that where you're like auto attacking before your abilities to maximize your damage. And then you've got ultimate aim and you've got the ultimate combo, which is when you land from the sky.
1, 2, yeah.
Yeah, hit, swing your hammer, throw your 1, drop the stun, which confirms the backswing, spin to get the kill. So, let's go through his mechanics. Did you, like, the walls, just for stunning and setting up, how did you do there?
Average. He didn't...
Average? Okay.
Yeah, he didn't, like, trap his teammates, but he didn't exactly, like, you know, he wasn't a superstar, but
Did he go for, like, the gamble walls? Because gambling's something that players often do, and I know everyone in the chat has experienced this. Your teammate walls you off and you die, and you're like, man, why do you wall me off? But if you think a little bit, if that wall hadn't walled you off, if it had popped up right behind you, you would have been safe. If he didn't wall at all, you were still dead, so it was a gamble, and it didn't work out. Did we see any of that, or was it just sort of like walling for setup?
No.
Okay.
It was just walling for setup. It
So
was
that's
very
not something
clear
that we can really talk about.
Yeah, it was very clear that, like, he was not the hard carry on the team.
That's fine. Thor's great at that, honestly. He's a good character for that.
It's great.
No, he
That's
certainly
why
can
Thor is
carry.
good.
He
Yes.
certainly can carry. Like, you can get super fed, go 14-1 and 13. I don't know. I had a rank game yesterday. It was great. Okay, what about the wall into double tap combination with the stun for poke?
There was more than one time where the player stunned and then missed the hammer anyway.
Okay, so there's a few reasons that can happen. Like sometimes it's nerves. Sometimes
it seems to be nerves. That is usually
now,
what I blame
every
it on.
so often, like sometimes you stun someone and they pop up on the other side of the wall, and you're not expecting that. Like
Yeah,
I
totally.
think that's a common mistake that you get on Thor,
Very
right? Where
true.
it's like the wall does something weird because let's be honest, it's kind of a finicky skill. It's a little bit
Oh,
weird.
it's extremely
Sometimes the wall pops up in the wrong spot, you miss your hammer. Okay, what about just the hard hammer throw, right? Where you're just trying to double tap for poke, no stun, no setup.
Missed a lot. Not he very rarely did he get the double tap, and
Did he get caught because of it?
yes,
Okay.
many times. More importantly, we watched him throw his hammer into the wall, into walls where it didn't have the possibility of going over the wall, right? Like, you got to know the geometry of the map. The wall, the
Sure.
hammer would just get thrown into the wall, and he could not escape. We've seen a lot of times he just didn't hit the button. Looked very nervous.
Did we see any accidental teleports?
We saw maybe
Because
one
that's
or two
the shit
accidental
that like
teleports.
happens
It was,
to everyone. To be honest.
it wasn't accidental teleports. It was inability to teleport when he needed to. That
Okay.
we saw a lot of.
Right, now was that like being stunned out of it, or like bad
No.
timing, or just
No.
not realizing that he
He was
needed
just
to?
not doing it, dude.
Not realizing that he needed to? Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at the ultimate, well, I mean, spinning, like, not super like, you can't juke it, right? You can't juke Thor's Berserker Barrage, unless you're really making a mistake. But was he spinning at the right time? Was he, like, finding people who couldn't get away and spinning on them? Was he properly
Occasionally.
using the difference between spinning and auto-attacking? Because sometimes it's better to just swing your hammer.
Occasionally, like I said, he wasn't completely brain dead, right? Like, he could hit people with his spin to win. He was hitting people with the hammer sometimes. It was just like he couldn't teleport correctly, and he missed 9 out of 10 ultimates.
Okay.
That's being generous.
Now, the ultimate is a hard skill to hit. Like, it is.
It's
And
difficult. There's
you
a lot
can
of
get
pain.
juked. When he did hit the ultimate, was he Thor comboing properly?
No.
Okay. Alright, so mechanics sounds like average.
Yeah. Basically, what I took away from it was he was an average player playing far below average because of nerves. I could be wrong, but that's what the experienced, avid viewer
So, like,
in me saw.
you'd say decision-making mistakes mostly?
Decision making,
And, like, map awareness?
map awareness was trash. And decision making, was very clear that he wasn't making the decisions. He was very hesitant.
Okay.
Very hesitant. Hesitant is that's really the takeaway here, Krett. Basically, he was hesitant about making the moves, and when he made the moves, he didn't put all the puzzle pieces together in the right way. Like I said, again, from the outside looking in, it seemed like he was an average player that played below average because of nerves and hesitation, which can also be attributed
Would
to
you
nerves.
say he was out of his league? This is an important distinction, right? Like, everyone's had the game where someone on your team is like, hey, I've only played Conquest 7 times. What's up, guys? And you're like, oh, God. And it's not his fault. He's just, like, in your game for some reason. He doesn't know what's going on. You
Right,
shouldn't
but
be
those
mad
are two
at
different
him.
worlds. Those are
Well,
two
they
different
totally
worlds.
are. They totally are, for sure. But
No,
the question
I'm
is,
not talking
do you think
competitive direct.
he was out of his league?
Yes, I think he was out of his league. But very important, those are two different worlds. If I'm on the if I am SunTouch on that team with Redfu, I am not saying the things that I'm saying in the booth watching that game.
Oh, totally.
Two completely different worlds. Two completely different worlds. As Simple Goodness says, when you know it's about nerves, the best thing to do is rip on him and ensure that he loses ongoing confidence. One, he's not listening to my cast while he plays. And if he is, one, he's cheating.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And two, out of sight, out of mind. It is the players that is part of being a player.
Well, and also, like,
of being a
casters
player.
aren't responsible. Casters aren't coaches.
Yeah,
That's
it's also
not what they
my
do.
job to make sure he plays well. If I write an article titled "Zapman sucks and is the worst player of all time," if Zapman does poorly the next day and blames me, that's the wrong way to think about it.
Yeah. Then
You
he's just
can't-
proving you're right.
Right. You can't internalize that. It is your job to not internalize that. That said, I wouldn't write an article like that.
I would. Yeah, I'd do that. I'm down. You need
But,
an article written?
But I mean, like, that's the thought process, right? Like, you know, casters do have a certain amount of responsibility with being respectful, as far as that is an unwritten. It's not a rule. It's a rule that can be broken. Like, if some player does something completely egregious
There's an
outside of the
example
game,
in a Smash tournament. I don't know if you remember. It was on YouTube a while
Okay.
ago. People were super mad where this player, like, unplugged his gamepad accidentally. So the other guy paused for him, which he doesn't have to do. He can just kill him and win. He can, like, totally do that. If you unplug your controller, you're fair game. You have to hold that, right? This guy paused for him. Guy plugs his controllers back and it's like, yo, he paused, DQ him.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
technically, yeah, he should be
He's
DQ'd. Right. You can't pause. But, like, fuck off!
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And, like...
That's like in Smite, if you, like, paused, and then your guy... We're not talking SPL, we're talking, like, a casual tournament, right? Like, for gems. Like, you pause, and then, like, because someone on your team's disconnecting, and then, like, let's say you hit 9 minutes, and the other team's like, it's okay, we'll use one of our pauses for you. So you go to 10 minutes, your guy reconnects, and then you're like, they're not ready. DQ them. They're not ready. Like, shut up. Go home. What are you doing? Go away. Right? It's that's just being a fuckboy.
Yeah, totally.
And so the casters who were watching this got mad because the integrity of their sport was being trashed. Like, this player was just being a shitter.
Well, I think I have to address this.
Okay.
The fact that I am defending my behavior without acknowledging what role my comments had in Redfu stepping away from starting jungle is a severe letdown. I used to like watching you cast, but I won't watch you cast anymore in the future. One, that sucks. It'd be awesome if you continue to watch me cast, because I'm not going to stop anytime soon, dude. I'm going to still be here, and you're not, and that's okay. But two, my role in having a professional player step down is a lot less on me and a lot more on a professional player. I will reiterate what I said. I never said this guy sucks. I never said this guy's bad. And those are things that I consider crossing the line.
Right. It's a simple rule of talk about the play, not the player. He's not a bad player. He's playing bad.
Exactly. Exactly. Talk about the play, not the player. There's also a famous adage, criticize all you want, just never make it personal. Unless, of course, it's like a Michael Vick fighting dogs type thing. Then you make it personal.
Yeah.
But here's the deal with Redfu. I called out his mistakes many times. Many times, his team lost engagements because ultimates were coming down and missing. And then walls were missing. And the damage was missing. So essentially, that 3v3, that 3v2, where Thor ganks the dual lane, is just a 2v2 because Thor's not doing anything. And that hurts your team. That's a problem. And that has to be called out, okay? We're the Smite Professional League, not the Smite You Tried Hard So Good Job League, okay? So do I recognize that Redfu is do I recognize that not just Redfu, but an individual player that is underperforming? Do I recognize that they are putting in work and doing what they can? Of course, I recognize that. But when you drop the ball it is not my it is my job as a commentator, and it is every commentator's job. We are translators and we are highlighters. The story is written by the players, and the hard to figure out stuff is translated by us, and the important to point out stuff is highlighted by us. So when there is a sequence that fails to be successful because one player did not perform, that needs to be translated to the person that doesn't understand it, and it needs to be highlighted, because when you lose that team fight, the stuff after the stuff is the fire giant, and then the game win. So it is. I am not doing my job. Commentators do not do their job if they do not talk negatively about things that happen negatively in a game. There is a right and a wrong way to do that, and you will never, ever catch me saying so and so sucks in a game situation. I will definitely say they made a curious move. I will definitely say that they made an interesting decision, but it is just not the right thing to do to highlight a poor play and say that they tried their best, or say that they almost made it. That is doing a disservice to the fans at home, because if they do not understand that a poor play is a bad thing, then who is to tell them what's going on?
That's the thing that you
say.
That's the thing that you say, like, after the game, when you're giving context, right? When you have a team that's like, let's say if Titan had lost to Fnatic in the playoffs, right? And so you say, wow, you know, they came from the Challenger Cup. Or actually, that's what you say when Titan lost to Cognitive Prime, right? You say, wow, they came from the Challenger Cup. It was such a long journey. They didn't quite make it, but they really tried. They put in the effort. They are professionals. They have proven that they are one of the best teams in Europe. That's when you give them the, well, they lost, but, right? You don't do that in a team fight. You don't, without a good reason, right? Like, you can say, well, they didn't get the Fire Giant, but that was a really good Kukulkanal. You can say stuff like that. Or, like, it's just...
And also, just for the record, in case that guy just for the record, Red Foo has had to go on vacation. Here's the quote from Deathians on why Red Foo isn't on the team. Playing in the qualifiers, we already knew that Red Foo would have to go on vacation twice in the near future. We still thought we'd give him a try and really grew at the team, and he's a part of the LC family. So it happened that we qualified for the current split and forced us to make a decision. Are we going to pick up a jungler mid, or we continue to use Red Foo? We asked Arrow if he was interested. He said yes. Suntouch moved to jungle. We screamed in that constellation. That's exactly what Deathian said, constellation. And the team felt much more confident than before. We talked to Red Foo about everything. He's going to work behind the scenes. He's excited to do things like that behind the scenes when he comes back from vacation, and maybe eventually make a comeback in the future. Red Foo on the team was not conducive to winning. With Suntouch in the jungle, we think we have a better chance. Boom! The team recognizes that the player was not strong enough. I have nothing else to say. Like,
I do. Like, I have a few things, right? And so, partially, like, one of the sins of casting, in general, is saying the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's something that is bad in terms of your speech patterns. It's something that is bad in terms of your analysis. It's something that is... just should be avoided. So you shouldn't say so much damage every team fight, right? You shouldn't start your analysis, or you shouldn't throw by saying, like, now over to F dot. Like, you shouldn't just do the same thing over and over because it's boring and it's bad. Now, there are some points that are important to drive home, right? Like, if a team pushes the Phoenix furthest away from the Fire Giant, I think it's fine to say once a game, well, they're pushing this Phoenix because the Firemen in this lane will apply more map pressure.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
And you say it once per game. You don't say it every time they go to lane to push the Phoenix.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
it
you
is
can't
hard.
repeat the same stuff.
It's hard to... Like part of casting, as F. Dot said earlier, is highlighting the things that need to be highlighted and translating the things that are a little bit more complex. And casters basically do that on the fly. Right? You watch a team fight, you understand it, and then you spit it out. And one of the hardest things of casting, and this is not an excuse, but it can be an explanation, is when the same player keeps making mistakes in multiple team fights. Because you don't want, like, it just sucks to keep saying,
Yeah.
this guy made a mistake. Like, if you have a 60-minute game that has 8 Gold Furies and 4 Fire Giants, and a support player misses the hog on all 12 objectives, that's important, but you also probably shouldn't say, and he missed hog for all 12 fights, right? Like, you want to talk about it in different ways, so that can be difficult.
Right. It's very, yeah, definitely.
It is.
I mean, see, one of the things that you have going on. Well, thank you very much. One of the things that is important when it comes to that sort of thing, especially considering. All right, let's say. Basically, what happened was, dude, LC lost like 5 team fights in a row.
Yeah.
LC lost like 5 team fights in a row, having a lot to do with misplays coming out from the jungler.
Sure.
How do you talk about that? Like, I will come from, like I said, I'm getting hit up on Twitter by Seattle Paul telling me that it's not cool that I don't apologize. And I won't apologize, and it's not something I'm going to do. I'm very comfortable where I stand and how I casted that game. But I am human, and I am open to the idea that I made a mistake. I don't believe that's the truth, but I'm open to the idea. So let me ask you, as a qualified caster and a colleague.
Sure.
What is the goal every time? So, especially since you don't do play-by-play. Play-by-play primarily. Everybody does both. You don't primarily do that, right? So everybody has play-by-play happens, all right? Team fight goes in, and the support screws the pooch. He's playing Athena, he like taunts incorrectly or something. How do you
misses the taunt.
How do you summarize? Yeah. Okay. We're talking egregious mess up. Like Ymir blinks in behind. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Support's playing Ymir. Ymir blinks in behind the enemy team and freezes, and the enemy team's on the other side and slaughters everyone. They win the team fight. How do you summarize that fight?
Unfortunately, due to an egregious misplay from our support player, F-Swag, it seems that the concerned dogs have lost this engagement. Now, because of that, they're going to be put off on the back foot in this way. They've lost the red buff, and they're like, and then you jump into the analysis. You say, like, they lost the fight because of this, that's too bad. And then you jump into, like, what happens next, what they're going to have to do about it.
So, okay, sweet. What happens when the same thing happens 2 minutes later? Or 3 minutes later for next mid-camps?
3 minutes later, it's like, ooh, another unfortunate misplay. Explain what happens next.
Sweet. What happens when it happens 5 minutes later at the Gold Sphere?
Seems like this player's having a rough game.
And then when it happens 5 minutes later at the Fire Giant?
You say, I think that's when you take a step back and you change your wording and you say, the concerned dogs are having a lot of trouble in this game. They need to buckle down and find a way to defend in these situations, right? I think eventually there's a transition to talk differently. It's a similar problem to how do you cast a 40-minute stomp.
But I'll sort of disagree with you there.
Okay.
But just because, like, when it's a 40-minute stomp, you basically just start ignoring stuff, right? Because
yeah, when it's a 40-minute stomp, you just start talking about, like, your boys watch or whatever.
Yeah, like, this team is ahead by 25K. I will literally talk over a team fight.
Yeah.
I will literally talk over
and
a
that's
team
what you're supposed to do.
25K. Yeah, and you're supposed to, like, oh, let's talk about, you know, this, that, a third, blah, 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 whatever. But here's the thing. Again, like I said, when you're talking about some, like, for the viewers at home that don't understand why a team fight went one way or the other, you have to explain what happened. And so when it really
I think eventually you can make the transition and talk about the winning team and say something like, the 5 Angry Hindus are able to rush down the 5 Very Dogs, and after a quick Fire Giant are going to be moving on to the towers, right? Like, eventually you just have to
of course.
change it.
But but you know, it's your job to explain. And I mean, the entire cast, like, I do think that this has been blown out of proportion by it is a vocal minority, I will say. Overall, I've gotten this topic of the London conspiracy game with Kretuhtuh before the SPL. I've gotten like, I'm talking like 1090, where 10% of people that I'm talking to, and that's even higher, like, dude, you fucked up. And then 90% are like, what are you talking about, dude? He did fine.
Sure.
And it's sort of like team fights, dude. When it goes, like I said, I'm the translator. The team fight is a jumble of abilities and numbers, and it's my job to say Athena goes in, gets the taunt, 3 people come in, they're grouped up so they get hit by Agni bombs and they die. Just as much as they get hit by Agni bombs and they die, great job, Takati.
Right.
Just as important as me saying the Athena taunt comes in, 3 people come in, and all the bombs misses. Unfortunately for Mace of the Face, not his strongest showing. It is just as important.
Yeah.
It is just as important, because if you sort of understand the game, if you play it casually, you and your girlfriends play Assault sometimes, you and your boyfriends play Domination when it comes up on Match of the Day, and then you want to watch
Thursday. I think it's Thursday.
I don't even know, but if you're coming from a casual standpoint, you understand the game, but you don't understand what makes the clock go back and forth in team fights. That's what I got to do. That's what you got to do. That's what play-by-play people have to do, and it's unfair to really. You're leaving that person out, and like at a certain point, you do just stop mentioning that the foreplay.
No, eventually you have to transition. You have to look at it from a different perspective for sure, because you just need to keep the cast interesting. Now, that said, I think some of the biggest pitfalls are when someone goes for the criticism, but they're wrong. Like, you better be damn sure that your criticism is correct. Right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, you can be kind of wrong about how something went well, and that's okay. But you have to be absolutely correct about something going wrong, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, Trix Tank steals the Gold Fury, right? You can be like, oh, well, Trix Tank stunned with the Guan Yu horse, but actually maybe it was like Cuvo on Athena jungle taunting at the right time, and it wasn't really, like... You thought one CC connected and it was another one. Like, that's fine. It happens. It was still a good play. That's the point. They got the thing. But when you're criticizing someone, you really need to be correct, right? You can't say, oh, he didn't taunt at the right time if his taunt was on cooldown.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
No, I mean, yeah, no. It's you just can't. And I mean, like...
And then the other thing I think is just... you can't jump at it too quick, right? Like, I think more than a good play, you have to think about a bad play. And you have to say, why did that happen? What went wrong? And what was the good play? Now, if it's just a missed skill shot, like, that's easy, right? Like, Homie missed his Athena taunt, sure. But when a Kukulkan ult misses, that's when you need to be a little bit more critical. That's when you need to say, okay, why did the Kukulkan ult miss? Well, maybe it was a miscommunication about the taunt, or maybe the taunt went on to Arachne instead of onto Artemis. And I think that's really the issue. And I think that's a big issue that pro players have when they're watching casts, because they have more time, so obviously it's easier to say what exactly went wrong. Or they have more of like the behind the player's eyes thing, which I know is an argument that you don't really like. But I think there's a level of, like, understanding there that it's more in the mind of a pro player. I think pro players are more likely to know what other pro players are thinking. Right? Like, a Duro is more likely to know what MLC Stealth is thinking in a situation than I am likely to know what MLC Stealth is thinking. Because he's been there, he does that, they kind of do the same thing. So when MLC Stealth misses a Kukulkan ult, a Duro is more likely to know why.
Sure. I think
that's not to say that the caster can't know why.
I will give you that. I will give you that.
Or actually, you know what I want to say is a Duro is likely to know why quicker.
I will give you that to a certain extent. Player, and that's a chemistry thing, right? Like if like I said, I deduced that it looked like to me Kretuhtuh was performing poorly due to nerves, right? That's from the outside looking in. I don't play on a team with him. Is it a player versus caster thing? No, it's a proximity thing. Suntouch knows a lot better why Redfoo was making mistakes.
Well, in some ways. And then there's also like, well, you're on a team, so it's hard to be impartial. You have a different perspective, and that brings advantages, and Suntouch has his, and both perspectives also have disadvantages. You don't have the proximity, so you don't have the personal factor, and Suntouch doesn't have the objective factor. So
sure. But I mean,
it's a trade-off.
Sure. Let's take. Not that there's any blood between the best and the guys from Eager. Let's pretend that they are completely amicable. I actually, truth be told,
let's pretend they hang out.
Sure, yeah. Like there's no team bias there, but they're on different teams and they don't hate each other, right? Let's pretend. All right. Best knows what's going through Zapman's mind better than I because they have played on a team together, right?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. But I will say I know what's going through Jeff Hinla's mind, for example. I will never know what's going through a player's mind as much or as well as his teammates do, but very, very close because him and I are very, very close and speak on a daily basis about the game.
Yeah.
I will watch stuff and be like, Jeff, why did you do that? That's weird. And he will be like, well, I knew my mid laner was here, ward's here. And so there's insight there. There's a level of understanding there. So when it comes to like knowledge of the game, I will never buy that a player knows better than a caster if you do your homework. If you're a dude that watches the Pro League games, and that is what it is.
Let's switch roles here because I want to talk about the topic of item builds. Meerkat brought it up in chat, and I think for Meerkat, he's the solo laner for Cognitive Gaming. Solo lane is probably like the most confusing lane in terms of building. Like every god you play in the solo lane is just sort of like build some stuff. You need enough defense and enough offense, right? And like there's no super obvious solo build in a lot of cases. Now, I do a lot of math, right? Like a lot. I can calculate the exact DPS numbers and time to kill and shots to kill of any hunter build on any hunter. That's what I do. So, how do you talk about someone's item build? How do you say this player...
example is what I said about Meerkat last night or this weekend. Because
that he sucks dick?
Wrong. Sure. But no, perfect example is what Meerkat did because it was completely wrong. He admitted it was wrong. It was a misclick, right? He bought Executioner instead of Jotuns on Hunbats.
Yeah, not good.
Obviously wrong, right, Krett?
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, right, exactly. And this is how I handle item builds specifically because they're very math-based and playstyle-based. So that's a lot of stuff like surprises come out, right? If it's not like Hydra's on Naja, it's not meta, but it's a big duh why you buy Hydra's on Naja. Sash, basic, ult, I get it. Sweet, deal, done. But so this is what I said about Meerkat when he bought Executioner because of his stupid fat sausage fingers. I was like, all right, look, Jotuns is going to be a lot better for boxing, or Jotuns is going to be a better overall pick on Hunbats. Executioner might be a boxing choice. I don't think it's the correct choice, but it's an interesting thought process, and maybe we'll see it come to fruition later on. That's like almost virtually verbatim what I said. And I think that's how you nail it, right? You say you give a little background, you never see this item built on this character. That doesn't mean it's wrong. That said, my knowledge of the game tells me it's wrong, but who knows, maybe he's got a trick up his sleeve.
Like,
those
shit happens, right? In the LCS, there was a point where I think it was Cop bought 2 Infinity Edges. Like, you shouldn't do that. The casters were like, why did he do that? And then after the game, they had a replay, and he was like, oh my god, I just bought 2 Infinity Edges. Like,
dude, I mean,
oops.
we had Jigs come on for the interview, and Jigs was like, and Meerkat wants me to tell you that it was a mistake. He fat fingered it.
yeah, like it happens.
You know,
I think the issue comes when you're looking at a build. You have to think about like the methodology. That's the word I use because it's like, what's the idea behind the build? As you said with Executioner, it's like, okay, well maybe it's for boxing and doing damage one-on-one, stuff like that. I don't think casters should talk about like build math right now.
I agree.
Because no offense, like, do you have the resources to tell me how many shots, like, a hunter build will kill in Neath versus Neath? I do. I can calculate that
sure.
shit. Like, I will tell you exactly how many shots, on average, one build will kill another build with. Like, that's my thing, but...
I mean, that's, like, I can do that, too.
But do you?
No, because I think that in a game, that level of intricacy is usually not needed.
Yeah.
If we were doing an analyst show, then I would definitely go upstairs to the guys with the spreadsheets.
Yeah,
But
totally.
for the most part, basically, I do my research. I go up to the dev guys and we talk about numbers and stuff, and that's generally how it goes. So like when it comes to like build math, I just don't think that it's relevant most of the time, especially to the viewer that SPL is shooting for. I think I think build methodology is more important.
Yeah, that's what matters. Now, I think the issue comes with a hunter build. And this is the hard part. I think this is going to be our last topic. The methodology of most hunter builds is do as much damage as you can to a single target.
Which I don't like, but okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not, dude.
What do you mean?
Do as much damage as you can to a single target
With
while
lifesteal?
also buying lifesteal.
Yeah, while also buying lifesteal. True. Alright, yes. There are some slight variations, right? Like, I think Barracuda has been buying Aussie last item on his stream, so it's like, hey, more lifesteal. But if you're just talking about, like, the maximum DPS hunter build on a specific character, there's a right answer for that. Like,
yeah.
So when you're talking about that, that's sort of, I think that's the slippery slope where you can say this is wrong. And
sure. I do believe that thought process is wrong, though.
The maximum
like,
damage, you think hunters should build for, like, more utility and stuff like that? That came off really patronizing. It wasn't. I'm actually interested.
You need, like, lifesteal and stuff.
Yeah. I know.
I think lifesteal is, like, integral.
Obviously with lifesteal, but, like, when you're talking about the highest maximum damage build with lifesteal, there's a correct answer.
Yeah, definitely.
I think hunter builds is something that you can sort of talk like that. It's like, this is the high DPS build, and then there are others. Unfortunately, Season 2, we don't really have a spectrum like we did in Season 1, right? Like, there wasn't standard crit, like, Unicorn and the other Zapicorn build or whatever it was. So, it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Zapicorn.
Yeah. And then it's like there's other slight things, like, does a certain item work on this character? Is Heavy Hammer, duh, on Bakasura, but is it good on Thor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where it starts to become almost cut and dry. Like, you can say, no, it's probably not good on Thor. Or cooldown boots versus magic power boots. Like, well, magic, or cooldown boots are really good, and magic power boots are kinda eh. But, like, talking about builds, man, I think that's the slipperiest slope for casters, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and see, like, we're gifted in the sense that, like, it's very rarely about the math. It is so very rarely about the math, and it is so much more about the methodology. Like,
it really is.
Like, Bakasura versus Arachne, right? Arachne bought an Ichivol. That's wrong. Not because, well, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's not the strongest choice you could do.
Sure.
Because the boxing potential of Ichivol goes down because stealing physical power from Bakasura doesn't fucking matter because of Butcher Blades.
Yeah.
So, like, it's very rarely about how much damage per hit his basic attacks will do with the 30 power less stolen given to Arachne, and so much more about the true damage is more important. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. It's so much more about my mid laner is going CDR and your mid laner is going full power.
What does that mean?
It's so much more about that.
Right? Yeah, that's the question. So, like,
how much damage you're doing with the specific
let's talk about
amount of power.
boots versus boots in the middle lane.
Sure.
What does Shoes the Magi boots? What Shoes the Magi do? Well, they give you some mana. That's kind of nice. And then they give you 35 extra magic power. Now, when you think about a mage, if you're talking about how much damage they can deal, you want to be talking about how much like total scaling they have in their kit, right? On Agni, I think it's about 225, 250%. That means that your magic power gets multiplied by that number and is a part of their damage. So 35 magic power, 225%, it comes out to, I think it's like 90 damage or so you get from Shoes the Magi. Okay? In your full combo, like all 3 meteors, Noxious Fumes takes once, hit with your Flame Wave, dash away. It's going to do about 80 damage. Now, that combo, mid-game, when you finish Shoes the Magi, it's a 9% damage boost.
Yep.
That's pretty good, right? Like, think of it in MMO terms. Your mage does 9% more damage. I'm down. That's a good buff. CDR boots, obviously, are a 15% damage boost, because you use your abilities 15% more often. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The issue is that 15% damage boost scales, right? Because it's 15% of the total damage, and the 9% scales down, right?
Yes.
Because it. Okay, so what that means is that Shoes the Magi is relatively better early than it is late, and it scales down over time, while Shoes of Focus only gets better as the game goes on, but it can still be valuable early.
Mm-hmm. Depending on what your abilities are.
Sure. So, like, yeah, you don't need
utility,
CDR
you
on
want to
everyone.
cast them more often, etc. But see,
Sure.
and see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The 9% and the exact amount of damage very rarely matters more. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but does it matter more than the idea of full CDR versus full power? And that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what the itemization choices are about. So, like, again, the number crunching is very important. I would say that those.
No, I think the number crunching is important to speak to the philosophical idea, right? Like, the idea is Shoes of Magi, great early, scales down over the course of the game. Duh. Shoes of Focus, weaker early, still good. CDR is a nice stat, and scales up over the course of the game. When you need that second recycle, and you start talking about other concepts, it's a really deep thing. So you shouldn't just say Shoes of the Magi are bad, or Shoes of the Magi are good, or Shoes of Focus are bad, Shoes of Focus are good. You should think a little bit more about it. And then something that I think is going to end up happening at some point in mid lane, someone's going to build Traveler Shoes. Right? Because they have the same magic power as Shoes of Focus. And if you don't need the CDR, and you don't want the extra magic power, maybe you want to go fast. So we could see that. Right? Like, there's all this stuff going on. And to say a build is just wrong is, at best, an oversimplification, and at worst, not true.
It is very rarely wrong.
And what wrong really means is when the build itself does not match the methodology. That's what it means. When you're saying, I want to do this, and you're building the items that don't do that.
If you build, and I mean, there are definitely characters that go a certain way. So mages are weird. Even utility mages like Giannis can be built to be powerful, full damage mages. Let's go Thor. If you're building Fatalis at attack speed on Thor, I will call you wrong in my cast. That is wrong. You just don't do that.
Right.
He's an ability-based character, not an inheritance character.
But if you buy warrior shoes on your hunter, that's not actually wrong.
Exactly.
Because when you buy them, it's a 2 DPS difference, and full build, it's a 0.25 or it's a 2.5% DPS difference.
Right.
Which means, who the fuck cares?
And I mean, you know, when it comes to ability, when it comes to hunters that like their abilities more, a la Cupid, and you buy non-attack speed boots, all of a sudden, it becomes that is when I don't hate the word playstyle. I hate playstyle when it's used as a job. I don't hate playstyle when it's legit. And that's an example of when it's legit, right? Like, you're gonna buy, you know, non-attack speed boots, warrior tabi on your hunter. I get why. I totally understand why. You're going to buy it on your on a character like Freya. Let's pretend Freya's physical for a second, right?
Okay.
She scales off of attack speed, and you buy full power boots instead of attack speed boots.
I think Freya's a good example.
Interesting.
Does she really need that 35 magic power? Like, how good is it on her? It's like, it's nice, but Freya's really about the attack speed and the base damage, right?
Exactly. It's about the
Does
base
she
damage
really
of
need
your
the
pulse.
CDR? Well, like, CDR is cool, but in the right situation, I think you could buy tank boots.
100%. Because Freya scales. Completely off the topic, but Freya scales by attack speed because her steroid is a 6-second thing, and you want to shove as many basic attacks in 6 seconds as you can, just like Butcher Blades. That's why you buy Fatalis on both of them.
Yeah.
Duh. That's the thought process.
Right. Like,
and
Freya actually has breakpoints, right? Like, if you want to talk about MMO math, she has breakpoints. At certain amounts of attack speed, you get another pulse. And that's really, really important.
Do you know the attack speed number, Krett?
No, not off the top of my head. I can figure it out, though.
It's like 7% beneath the cap. I did the math last week. I forgot it, though.
It's like 7? That's for 7 attacks?
Yeah, it's like super high. It's like super high.
So, well, no. You start with like 5, I think, and then you get 6 fairly early in your build, and then you probably don't get 7.
Yeah, for the 7th, you need to like exclusively build attack speed. It's and at that point, that's when you get the versus the I can't lift my hand up, but you get 2 intersecting where attack speed and power sort of do this, and it becomes mathy. Yeah. I actually do math, fuck boys. Thank you.
Really?
I'm not talking to you, you asshole. You know I did it. But
no, I don't.
But anyway. The thought process is there is very, very rarely a wrong way to build. But when it is wrong, it is egregiously wrong.
Yeah, it's just straight up like you had an idea of what you wanted in your head, and what you're doing isn't taking you there.
Right. But I will say 99% of the builds that we see in professional Smite
probably fine.
Are fine. It might be curious. It might be interesting. And I will use those words till I die in professional casts. But very rarely will you see an executioner on a Hood Bats where that's just wrong.
Here's another example. We see Ikavol on ADCs, right?
All the time.
But if they don't fight until they get rage, they didn't use it. It wasn't good, right? So then that's a situation where their choice was curious, and you have to say, oh, well, maybe they thought they were going to fight. Maybe they thought they could get an early gold fury, and then they didn't.
That's a playstyle problem.
Exactly.
That's a playstyle problem.
Sure.
That's twofold. I would say in a
it's
cast,
one of 2 problems. It's either buying the wrong item or playing the wrong way.
Well, no, I wouldn't say. I would say it's either a playstyle problem in the fact that they weren't aggressive enough, or the enemy team did a very good job of making sure they did not get attacked on.
Or you have the opposite, where they should have been aggressive and they weren't, or the enemy team could have been aggressive and they weren't, right? Like, it could go either way. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and that's really the thing. Casting is a hard job, man. I think we should call it here, though. It's been a while. It's been a good show.
Yeah, I mean,
any last words before I have you killed?
It definitely has been. When it comes to casting, you got to wear a couple different hats. You got to think about a lot of things, and more often than not, you got to give leeway to the player, never to the viewer. I will, it's always about that, and in general, man, it's okay to catch feelings sometimes. But just because you're emotional about something doesn't mean that it is right or wrong. And now, specifically speaking, I will still defend is the wrong word. I will still stand by everything I said about Red Foo in that particular cast. And I implore people that disagree with me to re-listen to the game and tell me if I was being too harsh. But only after you re-listen. Because, as I stated before, it's important to call out mistakes as long as you do it tactfully. Because just as the fan needs to understand how amazing Jeff Hinn is because he blinked and secured that fire giant with a hog, it is just as important to explain that the reason LC has 4 people dead and the other team has fire giant is because Thor fucked things up for the 4th time in a row. It is just as important for pointing out the problems as it is positives. And once again, this is the Smite Professional League, not the Smite thank you for trying, here's a trophy anyway league. I'm not saying that it is my job to shit on people because they are professionals and they just have to swallow it, but there is definitely room for negativity in casting, analyzing, journalism at all, and people and fans alike have to be more open to it. If I was in my own bedroom right now, I would say stop being so fucking soft and grow some thick skin. But the more political way of saying that is, well, I don't know. Stop being so fucking soft and grow some thick skin, because the players aren't complaining about it. The players are totally fine with it. So if the players are fine with it, you should be fine with it too.
All right, that's our show. Peace.